So just deep diving in further into that, how did your first attempt go making your comic book? More so, when did you try to make your first comic book?
Oh man, so there's a lot of failures in this this whole journey. So I mean, first, I didn't know nothing about the comic book industry. I mean, just my little background, I'm an engineer by trade. So I come from the engineering industry, and the training that I would say that gave me intense skill sets to be able to help me get into this industry was the fact that we talk about problem solving. So I kind of broke it down. I needed to know who was in the industry, what the industry was about. So I did a lot of research. I've gone to conventions, and then I actually took a couple of courses. NYU, I went to NYU and I took, storyboarding and animatics. I took how to write a comic book or graphic novel series. And then I did my own little self-taught writing for comic books and everything like that, alongside of interviewing folks and all those things. So I had to deep dive into that and spend hours and hours upon writing. Initially, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know nothing about the industry. I didn't know what even a comic book script would look like. And they're just working alongside a group of other individuals who are already in the industry. I was able to, work on my skill set, perfect it. And then it actually worked to my family dynamics as well, because I had 2 young children at home. I had a wife who was a flight attendant. And so I was in the house a lot. So being that I was in the house a lot, all I did was write. That's all I kept doing was writing. And because I was writing, my earlier stuff, I'm gonna say it needed a lot of work. But I kept writing and kept adding on to the story. And then once we got to a certain point, then I went back and kind of, added some layers to the story writing, because as I wrote more, I got better at my writing, and then, just gave it to, other peers for review, look for mentors and everything like that. And actually had to work on a couple of things, just conceive, believe, achieve. That's like something in one of my concepts. So you conceive it in your mind, believe it in your heart, and achieve it with your hands. You have this thing where it's analysis paralysis. Like, so I wanted to make sure that we put out something that was market ready, that if you put it up next to the Marvels and DCs, the images, that you're like, oh, I haven't seen this title before, but it looked like, so I didn't want it to look bootleg, I didn't want it to look, second class or anything like that. So, we spent a lot of time with that. But then, we had to get to the point where we're like, look, we gotta put it out in the world. And I just kind of think of that, like, even from an engineering standpoint, as long as it does what it's supposed to do, like if you talk about your cell phone or anything like that, every so often you get an update, and that update is based on the feedback that you get from the consumers. So that's what we did. We put the first book out, and we took the feedback, and then we took the feedback and we embedded it into the second book, and then we just kept moving forward. And then based off of that, we came up with a really solid product.
Real. Yeah, no, that's real. Being a perfectionist, I think that's something that could be a disease, man.
Oh, yeah. Analysis paralysis. You be stuck. You be like, man, I got this thing. It's sitting on the table, and you're just so afraid to put it out in the world because you're afraid of your own success or what other people may think. But as long as you set your goal and put it and get it to a standard that you feel is ready for the world, hey, there's billions of people in the world. Somebody's gonna like it, somebody's not gonna like it. And then you take that information and you use that information to help you improve your product moving forward.
I agree. So, you touched on a few parts that I want to continue to talk on. You talked about, how you went through your trial and error. You had some stories that you kept working on, you added detail, and then you even went to NYU and you met some mentors. But, do you have a set formula for anyone who's looking to develop a comic book? Let's say, if you were speaking to someone, within your school, right? And they came up to you and they said, you know what, I want to build a comic book and I want to create a comic book just like you. What steps, or what would you tell them to go do? Would you tell them to go?
Well, it's a couple of things. I have a master class that we will be doing later on. But the overview of that will be when we talk about story. Designing a story, creating a fictional world or a world in general, and then the characters that's going to be in it. You have to see yourself with multiple personalities, right? And those multiple personalities are the interactions between the individuals that's in it. So one thing with a good story is conflict. you know, and we're not talking about that they have to be fist fighting conflict, but conflict in personalities, you know, sometimes polar opposites, you know, because when we sit down, just like how me and you were sitting down, you have to imagine that conversation. And that conversation can't be all one way where you the yes man and I'm just saying everything. Right. But we have, you know, different personalities, and then that in itself creates climaxes and conflict in that, because we have different views, different perspectives on how to go about doing something. So I'm about to give you some free game, right?
Right.
So our story formula is 5 parts. And the 5 parts is 1, breathtaking characters. You gotta have breathtaking characters that people could connect with. Right. 2, you wanna have a real world scenario that's connected to it. So, you know, even though we're talking about fantasy fiction, sci-fi, whatever the case may be, you want to have some real world scenario that people could connect to and relate to as well. Then you also want to have a piece of history. We always want to connect a piece of history with our stories. We always connect a piece of history. Right. Then we put in a fictional setting. So the fictional setting, how this all plays out in that. And then the last component will be exceptional artwork. So exceptional artwork that people could connect with, ties in with the whole story. And then that's the formula of creating a exceptional story that people, all types of people could connect with, regardless of, you know, race, gender, creed, anything. And that's our story formula. And then we'll be doing a master class on that, you know, how to tackle each one of those little elements.
Yeah, man. I got to tap into that, man. If you really want to learn how to make a comic book, make sure you tap into that, man, because